And we are live. It looks like people are coming in on all of the platforms today. This is Mary Grace TV. I'm Mary Grace, and I have with me here Dave Hayes, also known as Praying Medic. We are busy sharing out the show on multiple platforms as we speak. So we appreciate your patience. If you are just coming in, please do us a favor. Copy the link wherever you're watching and send it to somebody. We're going to be talking in depth today about what just happened a couple of days ago with the Trump verdict of 34 counts in New York in the courtroom of the infamous Juan Merchan. And we're going to just unpack it. Dave has taken a deep dive and been doing some research. We've got hundreds up on Rumble watching right now. It looks like people are coming in on X, also known as Twitter. Let me hear from you, my Facebook people. Let's see if you're out there. And we are going to get going here. Sometimes when Dave and I do a show, Conspiracy of Truth, we have a little bit of a unscripted conversation back and forth. Today is going to be a little more teaching focused because of the topic. This is a special episode. We're calling it the Trump edition, Conspiracy of Truth Trump edition. And so we really want to focus on that. If you do have other questions or concerns about different topics that we've shared in the past, we do encourage you to get in touch with us. You can go to our either of our websites. I'm at marygracemedia.com. You can always go there. You can get on my mailing list, however you want to do that. But if you go to the website, you can contact me through that. Also, Dave has a website, prayingmedic.com. That is the best way to get in touch with him is through his website. We do want to focus today on the topic that we're talking about, and this is not only the charges against him, the conviction for we're not really sure what crimes, but also the appeals process. And so I think that you're going to leave this conversation today with hopefully a little more hope than you had coming into it. But Dave's going to unpack it for us. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Hey, Mary. Doing good, all things considered. Uh,
Yeah.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on last minute. This was a definitely a last minute decision. I
Yeah,
had people.
we weren't scheduled to meet again for 3 weeks, I think.
I know, yeah. But, I had people asking on my different, platforms if, if we could hear from Mary Grace and Dave, and so we pulled it together, I guess, last minute. So there you go, and we really do appreciate everybody when you're watching either live or replay. One of the best things you can do to get the algorithm moving is to hit the like, subscribe, the notifications, and then also hit the thumbs up under the video when you're watching on these different platforms, and then of course leave a comment. We really do appreciate that.
Hey, Mary,
Yeah,
can I do a little promo?
please do a promo. Yes.
All right. Tomorrow afternoon
Yes.
on Twitter/X, I'm going to be doing a Twitter space with our friend Phenomenology.
Oh, good.
We call her Phenom. Her handle is Razzyberry. She hosts a lot of Twitter live stream.
Mhm.
They call them spaces, and we're going to be doing kind of an Ask Me Anything. We're going to be covering a lot of different subjects. Probably talking about the Trump verdict. Probably talking a little bit about healing, maybe some Q stuff. It'll be probably 6 to 6.5 hours. So if you don't get enough information in this broadcast, you're welcome to check out the Twitter space tomorrow afternoon.
Awesome. I'm gonna show her handle up here so that you guys can see it because I didn't have time to make a QR code for that, but here's the X handle that he's talking about. So if you let me get it where you can see it. Okay. So yeah, that's Phenomenology, Phenom. She's really sweet, and, she's gonna be running that space. What time are you starting?
We're starting at, I think, 4 Eastern.
Okay, perfect. So 4 Eastern, and for those of you who like Dave said, if you don't get enough today, then you can just log in tomorrow to X and just sit there and listen for hours because that's usually the way it goes.
And the thing about X Spaces is there will be numerous speakers, probably
Yeah.
10 or 11, 12 different people who will be jumping on talking about, different things. So,
It's always kind of interesting. It's sort of like a roundtable
yeah.
discussion, and so, Phenom is a really good Spaces host, and that really makes a difference when it comes to Spaces, and, she will probably have a couple of co-hosts, and they'll be monitoring and keeping things going. There's also sometimes an opportunity on Spaces to raise your hand and ask questions of the listener. And so, if you're patient, everybody can't get their question answered at the same time, but it is a longer format than what we have here. It's just audio. That's the other thing. So Dave doesn't have to do hair and makeup. Phenom doesn't have to do. It's just boom, go live.
They're
um,
experimenting with video, though.
I know, I saw that, but I really just want Periscope back. The old Twitter
Come
live.
on, Elon, what is wrong with you?
Elon Musk.
It was
Okay.
it was the best live streaming platform ever.
I know,
Bring
and,
it back.
um, so okay, so I actually got a text from somebody, and I want to address the answer. I wanna address this because it has to do with what we're gonna talk about. Let me pull up my live stream here and, send this. Okay, so this is a big question, and I was actually gonna address it. So I just got a text from a friend that said, "Do you think it's okay to donate, to donaldjtrump.com. When I click on it, it goes to WinRed." Okay, so let's talk about WinRed for a minute because that is President Trump's, website. It does go to WinRed, that's the official campaign fundraising website. The only problem when you go to WinRed and sign up and put in your phone number is that they will text you relentlessly until the day you die. They will
And
also
it's not like their text messages are creative and cool.
no.
Their text messages are the most annoying, spammy crap on the internet, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's awful, and so what I suggest
Hey, download an app where you can get temporary phone numbers and put in like a temporary phone number in there, and then you won't get spammed like crazy with all
Okay,
their nonsense.
that's actually the nice way to
Hey,
do it. Okay, but if you know
put in your neighbor's or your worst enemy's phone number.
you if you have a friend, if you know somebody that has really bad Trump derangement syndrome or
Put their number
they're like
in.
triple waxed and they're still mad at you because you wouldn't do that, go ahead and put their number in. I'm just telling you, I made the
But
mistake.
but do go there and donate to the
Yes,
Trump campaign. Please don't
yes,
let all the
and
spam
yeah.
dissuade you from donating to President Trump because he needs your financial support.
Right, and we don't I don't know why. I cannot answer the question of why they're using WinRed when they could do something else. All I know is that that is what they're using. I that the answer to that is above my pay grade. And so but again, it is gonna take you to WinRed. Hold your nose, just grit your teeth and make the donation. It's yeah, crazy. So, and then if you ever sign up to do anything with the Republican Party, again, put a different phone number. Like put the phone number for the local dog catcher. I just any number but yours. Because yeah, just okay. All right. If anybody from the RNC is
I-
listening,
If you have Phil Godlewski's phone number, put that in there.
oh, that's a thought. Yeah. Or Lynn Wood. Put Lynn Wood's phone number. Do I have his number?
I like that.
Yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. So yes,
Anyway,
when you go to donaldjtrump.com and it takes you to WinRed, that is official. That is the official fundraising site. Just take everything under advisement when using WinRed. Don't give them your real number. In fact, don't give anybody in the Republican Party your real number because it will end up being like distributed to every single politician that has an R after their name. Ask me how I know. Just don't. Okay. So, all right. So that's it. As you're coming in, we're almost up to 400, but let's get those numbers up, guys. Let's cruise on up here. A lot of people, oh wow, we're the numbers on Rumble are really climbing. That's just awesome. Um one more PSA while we're waiting. I really do want I want people to get here. I want people to come in and listen to this live. And so please tag people that you know, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there's one thing that I want to talk about that's actually going to bring out more trolls. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. As if talking about Trump's verdict wasn't enough. Now I'm going to talk about General Flynn. General Flynn, General Flynn, General Flynn. I was on a conference call with him yesterday, and he was telling us about a phenomenal deal that you can get for the Flynn movie. And I want to let everybody know this. Dave, you guys got the DVD, right?
We did.
Did
We pre-ordered it, and I watched it, and it's amazing. Really
Yeah,
is.
did you get the bonus content with your
Yes,
DVD? Yes.
yeah. The
Okay.
the extra interviews are
Yep,
just
yep.
fascinating with Devin Nunes and the
3
crew.
hours of extra content, right?
Yep.
3 hours. So here's what I want everybody to know. General Flynn and his team are offering some amazing deals. And one of the deals is it's buy 3, get 1 with the DVDs. And you're probably thinking, "Why do I want a DVD?" Well, guys, there may not be any internet, but if there is, even if there is, having the DVD gives you the extra bonus content. When you order the DVD, you also get a code to download. So you're actually getting both. You're getting access to the download, you're getting the actual physical DVD plus the 3 hours of bonus content. Most people are buying multiple copies so that they can give them away. So every DVD you when you open it, it has a code to go online and download. So you don't have to watch the DVD, but you have it there if you want. So, but a lot of people are dusting off those old DVD players, and remember that a lot of older computers have a disk drive as well. So you don't have to just watch it on your TV. So I want you guys to go to the link on the screen and order there. So it's buy 3, get 1. The other thing that you can do, there's a big thing, a big incentive right now is the pay it forward program. When you buy your DVD, you can actually buy additional copies so that the team can gift those to military, veterans, first responders, people who are just in a bad financial situation, because I know that not all of you are able to afford this. It also enables them to show the film in the live screenings to military, veterans, and first responders. And so when you do the pay it forward, again, you're going to get that special deal and you're going to get the bonus content when you get your DVD. Now, the last deal that we have is really cool is that if you have a venue, if you have a theater, access to a high school, a warehouse, something like that, if you want to have a watch party in your community of the Flynn movie, you can also do that. And the good thing is that the Flynn team will handle all of the ticket sales through the website. But the way that you organize that is contact me, info@marygracemedia.com, info@marygracemedia.com, and I will help you arrange that. We'll talk through the details, etc. But that's a great way. And some people are doing it like once a month. And this is important because the Flynn movie is showing what actually happened to not only to Flynn, but to President Trump. All the things that are leading up to what we're going to be talking about today are a lot of them are covered in the Flynn movie. This is why it's really an important part of your education. And also, you may have people that are sort of more awake now because of what has been happening with the Trump trial. This is a good opportunity to hand them that movie and say, okay, here's some homework for you. Or, hey, we're having a watch party. Come on over and attend and bring a bunch of people. So, however you want to do it. But if you're going to show it in a venue outside of your home, you do need to arrange an official watch party, and I can help you do that because of copyright reasons. Okay. So I think that's it. And I really do thank you to everybody who has already purchased. You're going to use my link and make sure that you put promo code Mary Grace when you do that, because we do get credit here on the channel when you book, or when you book a live venue, or when you book when you purchase purchase the DVD through the link. So there you go. It's buy three get one. It's also a there's also an opportunity to pay it forward. And then the last thing, General Flynn is also doing buy three. Spend $100 and get $10 off. So he's doing that on the movie website and also on the General Flynn website. So here's where you can buy all of your fifth generation warfare books, all of your information war books. There's a 3-book set now, including the role of the church in information warfare. If you go to General Flynn's website, get the same deal over there, promo code Mary Grace. Okay, so that's it for promos now. Anything that you buy from General Flynn's website, the movie or generalflynn.com, make sure you use the promo code Mary Grace. You're going to get some great deals over there, and this is a big part of your education and the groundwork and the background of what we're going to be talking about today. Okay? So, anything you want to add to that, Dave?
Nope.
Okay, so let's go. Trump, can you just give the background of what happened for people who may have been super busy, or
Over the
you
last
know,
couple days.
who maybe were working or busy? People are busy. And
Yep.
so everybody knows that something big happened, but let's just lay it out. Okay?
Let's lay it out.
Yeah.
All right. I'll start out with, and I'll say this: the Trump case in New York that was brought by District Attorney Alvin Bragg in the city of New York. It's a very complex case. All right, so just say that up front. It's a complex case. Bragg is using a very novel, very complex legal theory to charge Trump with some felonies. And suffice it to say, for now, many conservative and a lot of liberal legal scholars are astounded that Bragg would have the audacity to try to bring a case like this to trial, because it's just so crazy the way that they did it. So that's the kind of the upfront. It's a crazy case. It's a bit weird, very unusual, and I'm going to try to briefly and succinctly explain all the craziness and all the insanity for non-lawyers. I've been listening to lawyers hash this thing out for the last 2 days, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what happened and what should have happened and what didn't happen. So the case goes all the way back to 2016, before President Trump was president. And it actually goes back 10 years before that, when Stormy Daniels, the porn star, began to make allegations that she had an affair with Donald Trump. Now, Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump have both said at different times the affair never happened. Stormy Daniels has said in writing the affair never happened. Right. That said, okay, that's not actually material to what we're going to talk about, other than there's a whole lot of people who like to throw red meat out there and make that a big thing. And just wanted to let you know, from a factual standpoint, Stormy Daniels has recanted her claim that that she had an affair with Trump.
And yet here we are.
And yet here we are.
Yeah.
So what happened in 2016 is, let's see, there's a couple of key incidents that I think are important to understand. Michael Cohen, who was an attorney for Trump, And according to Trump, he was just an attorney. He was one of the many attorneys that Trump had hired. He had attorneys on staff for various things, for the business, personal attorneys, and different reasons to have attorneys on either on retainer or on staff. So um, Cohen, let's see, Cohen received from Stormy Daniels a threat after Trump announced that he was going to run for president. Stormy Daniels thought, hey, this is an opportunity for me to make a bunch of money. I can go to the press or I can go to Trump and I can say, hey, you had an affair with me. And if you want me to shut my mouth and not say anything, you're going to have to give me some money. And this happens all the time. It's a very, very common occurrence with celebrities, whether it's athletes, members of Congress actually have a fund that they can use money from this fund to pay off and silence people who make claims about them regarding sexual abuse or affairs or anything that would ruin their reputation. There's actually a hush money fund for members of Congress. This is a well-known thing. It happens all the time. And a lot of these claims are false. A lot of these people who are gold diggers, they're just looking for some money. They bring false claims against wealthy, famous people in order to extort money from them. And there's a practice in celebritydom that is called catch and kill. What they do is they have pretty much just decided we have a policy that we're due now. Whenever one of these people comes up and says, you had an affair with me, you did this, you did that, and I want money, they give the person some money.
Yeah.
They make them sign a non-disclosure agreement, which is a legally binding contract that they will not talk to anyone publicly about this allegation. It's not an admission of guilt. It's simply, I'm going to give you some money, shut up and go away, leave me alone. And it's a common practice in, like I said, among celebrities, politicians. It happens all the time. Yep. So it was not unexpected that this would actually happen to Trump. It happened. Stormy Daniels got a hold of Cohen. Cohen was Trump's attorney. According to his own testimony, Michael Cohen took out a loan against his own property, his house. He took out a home equity loan and paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 of his own money.
That's crazy. I mean,
yes. And according to his own testimony, this was not at the request of Trump.
Right.
He did it himself.
Yeah.
All right. Now that's kind of where this whole thing starts. And this is in 2016. Okay. Like I said, before the election, 2016 election.
Yeah.
Cohen knew as an attorney, he could later go to Trump and say, oh, by the way, I did a catch and kill payment to Stormy Daniels. She was going to threaten to blow the whistle on some affair you had with her. I paid her money out of my own account. I need to be reimbursed for that. Right. So his plan was, I'm going to pay her money out of my own account. Later on, when it's convenient, I'll tell the boss about it and he'll reimburse me. Right. That's how this thing was set up. Now, the problem is that Trump was campaigning for president, and where this starts to become an issue that becomes potentially a legal issue is the question of, was this money paid to Stormy Daniels a campaign expense? Because it was done by Stormy Daniels as a way to extort money from Trump because he was campaigning. So Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, put to the jury this question and this assertion that because a campaign was in action and Trump was running for president, the money that Cohen paid to Stormy Daniels was a campaign expense. And it was unlawful because it exceeded the $2,700 limit on campaign expenses at the time. And that's what Bragg, that's his legal theory on this whole thing. His legal theory is that it should have been recorded as a campaign expense and reported as a campaign expense to the Federal Election Commission, and it wasn't. And it was over the amount allowed to be reported by campaign,
Mhm.
to a campaigns, and therefore was unlawful. It's unlawful, number one, because it was exceeded the amount. Number two, because it wasn't reported. So those are sort of the crimes that are alleged that Trump committed. And I would have you note these crimes were committed by his attorney, Michael Cohen, not Trump,
Mhm.
because Trump wasn't the one who authorized
Yeah.
the payment. And here's the thing that very few people are bringing up and talking about. I don't know why, but um, I have a couple of companies. I have a publishing company or two. We actually have two. D. Hayes Media, we publish our political books, and Inkity Press is a company we run where we publish our spiritual books. And because we have two companies, corporations,
Mhm.
we have a CPA and we have a bookkeeper. I don't have an attorney yet. I don't need one, but we have a bookkeeper who, when we when we do payroll, we have a payroll company, Paychecks. They run our payroll for
Yeah.
us. They take money out of our account. They send us a paycheck. They report the money to the taxes that go into the IRS. They take care of all that stuff. We have a bookkeeper who keeps track of our books to make sure everything's being done right. And what the bookkeepers do is they categorize expenses, and this is a critical issue that
Okay.
no one is talking about as they're analyzing all this stuff. It's up to the bookkeeper to categorize expenses. So when I write a check to my editor, for example, um, I pay people to edit my books. If I
Mhm.
write a check to an editor,
Mhm.
my bookkeeper is going to look at the end of the month and go, who is this? This payment went to Lydia. What is that for? And it's okay. Well, that's Lydia. She's my editor, and so it should be categorized, right, as an expense for
Mhm.
this kind of work,
Okay.
editing. It falls under the publishing category, as opposed to something else. There's office
Sure.
expenses, and there's all different kinds of categories that businesses put their expenses under. Now, Trump had a bookkeeper who was keeping track of his expenses, and some of the expenses that year were for the campaign. When Trump took his airplane to a campaign in Texas, the expense for the airplane, the food, the staffing, the fuel, all the expenses, those are campaign expenses directly related to the campaign. So that all that would go under a campaign expense. And the bookkeeper would say, okay, this money goes to campaign expense. If Trump was, let's say, not campaigning,
Mhm.
and he decided to purchase, I don't know, he decided to purchase a golf cart, right? Because he
Right.
needs a new golf cart. His bookkeeper is going to say, "Oh, I see there, Mr. President, you bought a golf cart for $10,000. I'm going to put that under personal expenses." And Trump would say, "Yeah, that's fine because it's a personal expense, not a campaign expense."
Right.
Right? I'm bringing all this up because while this might seem obvious, this has been completely obscured in this prosecution. So at issue here with attorney, sorry, district attorney Alvin Bragg is they're kind of overlooking the fact that it's not Trump who records whether an expense is a campaign expense or a personal expense or a expense for
Mhm.
for his business. That's the bookkeeper's job. And so um, much of what was done that has been claimed to be criminal was not actually done by Trump. First of all,
Right.
payment to Stormy Daniels was not done by Trump. It was done by Michael Cohen. And in fact,
With his own money.
with his own money. And Cohen pleaded guilty to a federal election campaign violation years ago for that exact thing. When he was put under the lights by the FBI and the DOJ, who threatened him with ruining his career and throwing him in prison, he pled guilty to a federal election campaign violation related to this payment to Stormy Daniels. And that is critical. Not a lot of people are talking about it, because when Alvin Bragg brought this case against Trump, they had no evidence that this was a campaign violation, except that Cohen had already pled guilty to a campaign violation related to that payment. And they then used his conviction in this case to assert that it had to have been a campaign violation.
Wow.
Otherwise, Cohen wouldn't have pled guilty to
Yeah.
such a violation. And in fact, what the DOJ did is the same thing they do to a lot of people. They did it to Flynn. They do it to a lot of other people. They get you to plead guilty to the crime they want to charge you with by threatening you with 25 years in prison if you don't sign this plea agreement. Even though you're innocent of the charge, this is what we're charging you with. Sign the guilty plea and you won't go to prison for 25 years. If you don't sign it, we will find something to charge you with and we will send you to prison.
That's what they did to Brandon Strzok. Walk
Yes.
away. That's exactly what they did to him. He was outside the Capitol for a few minutes, and they just railroaded him.
All of the
Yeah,
nonviolent J6 offenders who
yeah,
literally did nothing but go inside, walk
yeah.
inside the Capitol, look around, and leave. They leveraged all of them with threats of 25 to 30 years in prison if they didn't sign the plea agreement.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and I think one thing too I want to point out, I think this has been brought up, but it's worth bringing up again, is that, and Trump has brought this up many times, is that we're talking about the 2016 election,
Correct.
and this is 2024.
Correct.
Okay, so 8 years 8 years have gone by. Well, 7. Okay, so they waited 7 years to bring it.
Statute of limitations has already expired.
Yeah.
That's another thing we're going to get into.
Okay, yeah. So let's so the groundwork here is really good. You're still laying the groundwork. I just wanted
Yep.
to point out the timing of this.
Yep.
So keep going, keep going.
Yep.
One thing I want to say about just the chat. If you're on Facebook, drop a comment, because I don't know if Facebook is frozen. If you're just coming in, Dave and I are talking about the verdict that was returned against President Trump in Juan Merchan's courtroom in New York City. This is the hush money trial, supposedly. And so Dave is unpacking for us not only what happened, but how the appeal process will work. So please share this out. We're approaching 1,000 viewers live. We want to get well over that. Whatever platform you're on, please leave a comment, interact in the chat. It helps to make sure that it gets pushed up and other people can see it. So thanks everybody for that. Here we go. What's next?
So let's just address statute of limitations.
Okay.
So in the state of New York, because this is a state of New York case, the state crime that Trump is charged with has a very short statute of limitations. I think it's 1 year. It might be 2 years.
Wow.
It's a very short statute of limitation. The state crime, and it's a misdemeanor. So the statute of limitations had already expired on this case. They could not bring this case. And as a misdemeanor, there is a longer statute of limitation if you charge it as a felony. And the only way you can charge it as a felony is if you claim that this unlawful act was done in furtherance of a conspiracy or to cover up some other crime. In that case, it would raise the level to a felony, and the statute of limitations is longer. I think it might be 10 years. Oh. So what they did was they had to take a misdemeanor and make it a felony by claiming that there were two crimes committed. One was a separate crime, And then the next crime was committed to cover up the first one. So that gets to the point of this unusual legal theory that Alvin Bragg was trying to bring in this case. Now,
Okay. Now, I'm not an expert at math, but I do know that that's only 2 counts, and he got convicted on 34.
yep, I'll explain that.
So,
What you,
thanks.
oh, you just got ballooned
I don't
on
know
your
where those balloons came from, but that really
people do that on Zoom, and I see
looked
all the things that are happening. I'm like,
that
doesn't
was
happen to me when I
that
do,
was really
the peace
nice.
sign
So
doesn't happen.
that was really nice for whoever did that because this is such a heavy topic. So keep
Yeah.
the balloons coming, guys. That's
Yes.
awesome. I don't know who did that. Let us know
You
in the
if you I
chat.
think you just did the two thing, and that made the balloons go.
Wait, me?
Try it again.
Wait, what?
Do it over
What?
to
I
uh,
don't know.
I don't
I
know
don't
what it
know.
was.
But
You did
anyway,
something with your hands, and I think that's what did it. Anyway, so yes, but
okay.
Trump was charged with 34 charges. Why is that? Because um, the payments there was 34 payments, and what they did with the payments was that each payment repayment to Cohen was a separate charge. All right, so that's where you get the 34 counts from.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, so the
really.
jury is dumber than I thought.
Well,
Okay.
they got schnookered, and it was a very clever way that they did it, and I'll unpack all of that.
Okay, okay.
But I want to go back to the statute of limitations thing, and
Yep.
let's look at. I just want to briefly review the other agencies that looked at this crime,
Yes. Okay,
so-called crime,
good.
and said, "Yeah, there's no crime here." So the Federal Election Commission. This I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the Federal Election Commission because this is a key to one of the best defenses that Trump has on appeal. Federal Election Commission was established by the Federal Election Act, I believe, and the Federal Election Act authorizes the Federal Election Commission to have sole authority to administer federal election law, and it specifically pertains to election donations and expenses. And there is a statement in the Federal Election Act that says the FEC has exclusive authority over federal elections that supersedes and uh, and what is the word? I forget what the word is, but supersedes and basically replaces any authority established by any state law. Right? So it's unambiguous and it is very clear that if you plan to charge a defendant with a criminal statute that has to do with a federal election, the FEC is the only authority that can do that. It can't be done at the state level. The federal government has taken away authority from states to prosecute or investigate federal election law crimes.
So Alvin Bragg doesn't even have the jurisdiction. Like he
It
is
doesn't have the jurisdiction to do this.
and yet Merchan let it go through. Okay.
Correct. So the FEC looked at this complaint and determined there was no violation of a federal election law.
Okay.
Right. And Brad Smith, I believe, who's the former FEC commissioner, he was going to testify on Trump's behalf and explain federal election law and explain why there was no violation of federal election law and how there was no requirement to report because there wasn't a donation regarding this particular transaction. And the judge wouldn't let him testify. Why? Because if they would have let Brad testify, his testimony would have completely destroyed their case. He would have explained to the jury in very clear terms what is considered a campaign donation or expense and what is not. And he would have explained um, this money that was paid to Stormy Daniels could not be considered a campaign expense or donation because of the way that FEC laws are written. And I'm going to explain that real quickly here.
Okay.
So, and let me just say before I go into that, the DOJ also looked at this case. Southern District of New York looked at this case, and Alvin Bragg previously looked at this case, and all of them decided not to prosecute because they didn't have grounds to prosecute. And yet, here we are 6 months before the election, and they prosecuted Trump. Anyway, so real quick, I'm going to explain what Brad Smith said on Twitter yesterday in two threads that he did on Twitter. I tweeted him out. If you go to my Twitter timeline, you can find him. If you go to my Telegram, I grabbed the thread reader links and put them in my Telegram news channel.
Brad
So you can
Smith.
go through and you can read everything that he lays out very clearly why the payments to Stormy Daniels could not be considered a campaign expense or donation, and why in the second thread there was no obligation to report those expenses. And that's the other thing, because Bragg has concluded that Trump had an obligation to report these expenses to the FEC, and Brad Smith says no, he didn't. He had no obligation. So real quickly, yeah, there you go.
There he is.
There he is.
Okay.
Actually, Don Jr. just tweeted out his threads too.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I just followed him. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just be as succinct as I can on these issues. What Brad Smith says is that they have a certain way of determining whether an expense is related to a campaign or not. And here's what it is. If an expense or an obligation to pay something would have existed whether the person ran their campaign or not, it cannot be considered a campaign expense. All right. Now, that's a little bit murky,
Okay.
so let me explain. Let's say that a person is going to run for public office. They're going to run for mayor, they're going to run for governor. And they decide, oh, hey, you know what? My business has a bunch of lawsuits that are ongoing, and I'm going to pay to settle those lawsuits before I start my campaign up, because it'll be better for my campaign if these lawsuits are settled, and then the press won't be hounding me about it.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
even if a person pays an expense because in their mind it's going to help them as a candidate, it's not a campaign expense because that obligation existed whether he ran for office or not.
Okay, that makes sense.
If a person decides, I'm going to go get a facelift because I'm going to run for office and it'll help me improve my odds of winning if I look good, that can't be considered a campaign expense, because you might, it's something that you might do anyway, even if you were not campaigning, right?
So if you got hair extensions before you
If you
ran
got hair
for office or
extensions,
something like
you
that.
cannot use campaign money to pay for hair extensions, a facelift, a body makeover, or to pay off your business lawsuits. What he said, the way he explains it is, generally speaking, there are some exceptions, but generally speaking, an expenditure can only be considered a campaign expense if it is something that would only happen if there was a campaign.
Okay.
Flying to a campaign speech, paying for polling, paying for staffers to go out and knock doors on registered voters. It has to be directly related to the campaign and only related to the campaign. If the expense would have been spent without the person campaigning, it can't be considered a campaign expense. That would actually be illegal because it would be diverting campaign money for a personal expense, and you can't do that.
Oh, like Fannie Willis.
Like Fannie Willis, you can't take your campaign money
Okay.
and take trips and junkets with your boyfriend that have nothing to do with your campaign.
Okay.
That is a violation of the campaign law,
Yeah. Okay, Fawny.
right?
All right. So this is
So
interesting. Yeah. Okay. Good.
so what
Got it.
so what Bragg said Trump did is that they they did not. So this, let me explain what Trump did first. This expense, the expense of the payments to Stormy Daniels, was considered a personal expense by the bookkeeper.
Okay.
And Bragg says they should have classified it as a campaign expense, and they didn't. And they concealed the campaign expense to further their chances of winning an election. And therein, they violated the law because the campaign law says if a candidate takes an act to further their campaign to win an election
Hmm.
in an unlawful manner, then it's a crime. And the unlawful manner, you have to then define what is the unlawful manner. And I'm going to get into the weeds here in just a little bit about that, because that is a bone of contention. A lot of people have been arguing about on social media for 2 days, and most people have misunderstood what that means. And this goes to the issue of, what do you mean the jury doesn't have to agree on the crime, right? That question has been out there, and I'm going to unravel that ball here in a second. But first, let's go back. So what Bragg said is that Trump had an obligation to report the payment to Stormy Daniels as a campaign expense or donation, and he didn't. And because he concealed it, and because he didn't report it, that's two crimes. That's a violation of the law. And the concealment of the first act, it makes it a felony, and that's why he was charged. And all those 34 payments that Trump made to Cohen, each one of them is a separate charge because it is an act in furtherance of a conspiracy. And so that's why there's 34 charges. And
Okay.
and and um, this whole thing hinges on the assertion that the payments should have been documented as a campaign
Okay.
expense, and they weren't. They were documented as
Wow.
a personal expense.
Wow.
Now, as I said, Brad Smith has said on Twitter in his thread, you cannot consider something to be a campaign expense if that obligation would have existed whether the person ran for office or not. And clearly, Stormy Daniels could have leveraged Trump at any time to get some money from him to shut her up, whether he was running for office or not. That's not an obligation that existed only because of the campaign. It cannot be considered a campaign expense,
Hmm.
should not have been reported as a campaign expense, wasn't reported as a campaign expense. Trump did nothing wrong. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
documented the way it should have been. Bragg is saying, no, it should have been a campaign expense, and it
Hmm.
went over the $2,700 that's allowed. So there's multiple violations. Wasn't reported as a campaign expense. They concealed it in furtherance of a conspiracy, and it exceeded the amount that's allowed by law.
So Bragg is
All
okay.
three of those are allegations against Trump. All three of them do not hold water.
Okay. So Bragg is playing by Bragg's rules, right?
Right.
I had a
And
cousin like that, Brad, his name. His name was
and
Brad.
yeah, and
It was always his rules.
let me make one more point that I
Yeah.
haven't heard anyone make yet. Here is how stupid this case is. Bragg is literally saying that Trump is limited to $2,700 in donations to his own campaign, because he's saying Trump made the payment to Stormy Daniels, and it was a campaign donation, a donation in kind,
Oh,
and the Trump is personally limited to $2,700 in campaign donations. Got news for you, Bragg. Trump personally donated more than $50 million to his own campaign in 2016.
I think that's the candidate can donate as much they can spend as much as they want.
They can spend as much as they want.
They can
The, the,
self-fund their whole campaign.
the fact that this is they're claiming that Trump donated too much to his own campaign,
Yeah.
like how does that even make sense?
It's so interesting.
That's how crazy this thing is.
And this is where, like, the leftists have been trolling my social media, and, they're just so happy to be calling Trump a felon and 34 times convicted felon, etcetera, but when you
Yes.
ask them, what are the all of the federal statutes that he supposedly violated, please list them,
Yes.
they can't, right? Because it's 34 counts of something that was actually legal that
Right.
Bragg has decided is illegal because it's Trump who did it.
Because it's Trump who did it. Now,
Okay,
I want
okay.
to go back to one issue I said previously
Yeah,
regarding the FEC. So, the Federal Election Commission, their charter is to prosecute, to administer, and if there are violations of the law, to then assist in the prosecution of uh, violations of the laws governing donations and
okay,
expenses. And the word I was looking for earlier is preempt. So, in the congressional act that establishes the Federal Election Commission, it says that the FEC, their charter, is it supersedes and preempts all state laws. All. So it is unlawful for a state court to try to bring charges against a defendant regarding a federal election. They can't do it.
wow.
And that's probably the biggest problem that Bragg has, and probably the strongest argument in the appeal that Trump is going to file is this case should never have been brought at the state level. The state doesn't have authority. And let me give you the legal theory behind that. So what they did, and there's a lot of um, there's a lot of issues that are going to be raised on appeal.
Okay.
Trump has multiple legitimate
Mhm.
claims for appeal.
Isn't this similar to what happened in Georgia with Fani Willis, that she was
Yes,
bringing fe
but it's way bigger. It's
yeah,
way bigger.
yeah.
This is way bigger
Okay.
because because first of all, um, I'm going to talk about one of the grounds for appeal that Trump has, and that is um, it's the it's due process. So in the Constitution, there is a clause that states that the accused has a right to due process. They have a right to notice, uh, to be notified of the charge, and have a right to respond to the charges in a court of law.
Okay.
That's notice and respond. And so, what the prosecution has to do is they have to tell Trump or the defendant, here is what you're being charged with. Here is how we think you violated the law. These are the elements of the criminal act that you took. They have to explain to the jury what those elements are, and they have to explain to the jury how the defendant acted in an unlawful way. They have to give them the statute, and then the defense has to have an opportunity to respond to the charges and make a defense and present evidence, present testimony to basically to refute or rebut those claims. Trump did not have that opportunity because when Bragg was bringing his case, they never actually stated until the closing arguments what they were claiming the law was that
Okay.
Trump violated. They did not say up front what statute Trump violated until the closing arguments. So in this case, Trump had to put on his defense first, not even knowing what he was being charged with.
This is straight out of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag. I feel like this is like
It's it
this is like
is
the Cliff Notes for the Gulag Archipelago.
it's insane what they did. So
Uh,
what they did was
it's crazy.
they hinted around
Yeah.
and suggested and created a whole lot of hype about this novel legal theory, but they never actually came right out and
Mhm.
told Trump or his attorneys or the jury
Wow.
what crimes they believe that he committed until closing arguments. And in instruction to the jury, they then made clear, Merchant then made clear, this is what we need you to consider as you do your deliberation. And what they gave the jury was the jury instruction basically came down to um, that the claim that Trump was guilty of a conspiracy, right? And so conspiracy is an act by two or more people to commit a crime. That's a conspiracy. Conspiracy is a felony, not a theory, by the way. So
I
the
want that on a hat.
I know
Conspiracy is
conspiracy
a
is a felony.
felony, not a theory.
It's not a theory.
So good.
So Trump was charged with conspiracy, right? And what is a conspiracy statute? The conspiracy statute comes down to this issue of two or more people took overt acts in furtherance of a plot to commit a crime. And so what Merchant told the jury was, you need to agree that a conspiracy, that Trump was involved in a conspiracy to
Mhm.
commit an act in furtherance of a crime. However, the elements, or the manner, I should say, the manner in which that happened, you do not have to agree on. And people went berserk on social media when they heard, what do you mean the jury doesn't have to agree on the crime? That's the dumbest thing ever. Of course
Right.
they do. Hang on, because it's not what Merchant said. He told them they have to agree that that Trump was involved in a conspiracy. That is the one thing that the entire jury had to agree on. They had to agree unanimously that Trump was involved in an illegal conspiracy to unlawfully further. Well, basically, the conspiracy charge for elections it sounds really stupid when you read it. It literally, the conspiracy law for elections says committing an act that is intended to win an election or prevent someone from winning an election in an unlawful manner. Okay, that's it. That's the conspiracy statute.
Wait,
And
so can you
so
say that again? Conspiracy?
it is the commission of an act in an attempt to win an election or prevent someone from winning an election
Okay.
in an unlawful manner. All right. So if you take off the in an unlawful manner thing, anything that a person does to win an election or to prevent someone else from winning the election, their opponent, um, is that's what people do when they're trying to be elected. They take all these different acts and they commit all these different, well, not commit, but they take actions to
Right.
try to win the election. That's the purpose of an election. That's the purpose of a campaign. You're trying to win an election. And this conspiracy statute says you can do all of that as long as you don't do it in an unlawful manner. If you do it in an unlawful manner, that's the conspiracy charge, right?
But even if it were done in an unlawful manner, what you're saying is that Judge Merchan had no jurisdiction even to bring that to trial because it's a state
He would
because
have.
it's a federal.
He would have, but they screwed up in one major area.
Okay.
They went to the jury. Merchan went to the jury and said, "Okay, now what you have to tell the jury what the means are for committing this unlawful act." And on the means, Merchan told the jury, "Here are the three ways in which we think perhaps that unlawful act was committed." One of them it was, and this is the instruction they gave to the jury. One of them was a basically another falsified documents claim not related to the 34 document claims that were listed in the indictment. So there's 34 false documents claims. Those are the 34 charges. So one option for the jury was there could be another false documents claim not related to those claims. That's option number one. Option number two was the campaign donation or campaign expense violation. That was option number two. And option number three was a tax law violation. And that was never explained to the jury. So Merchan could have legally brought this case in his court, and Bragg could have prosecuted this case in that court if they had not included charge number two, possibility number two, because either the multiple other unspecified false documents charge, that could have been the means, the other one, and that would not have violated the preemption of the FEC. The other option was that they could have said that there was some tax violation, which was unspecified, but if the jury would have agreed that this was a tax violation, or if Merchan would have and Bragg would have said, this tax violation, this is the issue that we want you to focus on. This is how we believe that the means by which he violated the law, that would be fine. That would not be a violation of the preemption of the federal government. But they didn't do that. They focused on, in the jury instructions, they finally came down and said, it's the campaign donation and expense statute that we want you to focus on as the means. And that takes it back to preemption. And that takes it out of the hands of a state court. State court cannot prosecute that statute. They don't have authority to do that. So they kind of screwed up in giving the jury instructions because they narrowed it down to this one thing that they didn't have jurisdiction over. And so on appeal, I would expect Trump is going to first point out that only the FEC, only the federal government, has the authority to prosecute federal campaign law violations. They screwed up. They shouldn't have done it the way they did it, but they did. The other thing is, the other I think claim that Trump will make on appeal is due process. So they never did get around to clearly stating that they were going after the campaign expense donation violation up front. They didn't say that. And Trump didn't really know, and his attorneys didn't know what they were supposed to be, what charge they were supposed to be defending against. That wasn't stated until the very end. So that's a due process violation. He was not given notice, and he was not given an opportunity to respond to the charges. So I think he has a good case for due process appeal, and he has a good case on the preemption of the federal government. And speaking to due process, they also did not allow Trump to call witnesses. The former commissioner of the FEC was going to testify and explain all of this and make it all clear, and the judge would not allow him to testify. I think that's a violation of due process, and I think that's going to be raised on appeal as well.
This
So
is
there
yeah.
are multiple very strong issues that Trump can raise on appeal.
This is very helpful. I mean, it's there's so much to keep track of. So you're helping
I know.
to unpack it, and a lot of people in the chat are saying thanks for explaining this. Terry says, "Thanks for explaining this in a simple layman's terms so everyone can understand what happened with Trump." So I think a lot of us are feeling that way. You're breaking it down in a clear way that people can understand. So on appeal, FEC, they're going to argue that if it was an FEC violation, that should be prosecuted at the federal level, and
Right.
then also that he did not have due process, that the actual
Correct.
crime was not even explained to his defense team until right
What am I
before
being
the
charged
jury.
with? You heard a
Yeah,
lot of commentators saying, "I'm not even sure what is the crime." There we're like,
yeah,
days into this
yeah,
trial, and people are still wondering, like, what is he being charged with exactly? Because they haven't really stated what it is.
yeah, yeah. Now, was there anything else that you think that they would use
Yes,
on appeal? Okay,
yes.
let's go.
So I just want to bring up a couple of issues
Mhm,
on appeal. So normally, in most cases, at trial, you have to raise an objection or raise an issue. You have to file a motion uh, in objection of some procedural issue if you want to raise it on appeal. If something is not brought up during the trial, preserved on the record, you don't have a right to raise it on appeal.
okay.
So that's just something to consider. Trump did try to get this case moved to federal district court because his argument was this is federal campaign law
Mhm,
violation. This should not be brought at the state level. They don't have jurisdiction over this. And so he did
mhm,
bring that up. And the federal district court at the time, here's the problem. At the time, the district court judge sent it back to Bragg and the state judge because they had not clearly articulated that this was a campaign law issue. And so the judge couldn't rule on it that way because he didn't know if it was going to be a campaign, primarily a federal campaign law violation or not. So that was brought up, and so I think that is going to be preserved on appeal, and probably this ruling is going to be overturned. It's just a mess. Now, uh, I think that's it for the
mhm.
appeal issues. But let me talk about the appeal process.
Uh,
So Trump is going to be
yeah,
sentenced. He's scheduled to be sentenced on July 11th.
okay. Can we hold on
Yep.
just a second? So we're just over an hour in. We have
Break
quite a
time.
few. Yes, we're gonna take a little break. We have quite a few people listening. Don't go away, people. We're gonna take a quick break so that you can hear from our affiliate partners and sponsors here at Mary Grace TV. But that's the time for you to maybe refresh your beverage, stretch, get dinner going, whatever it is you need to do. But don't go away because when we come back, Dave is going to talk to us about the actual appeals process. We're talking about the Trump case in New York that was prosecuted by Fat Alvin and the infamous, notorious Juan Merchan, who is an embarrassment to all Latinos worldwide. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about this. Dave has taken a deep dive. He's done the research, so you don't have to. And he is going to explain it. So just hang out. Don't go away. Take a listen. And please, if you can, if you are in a position to do that, shop with and patronize our sponsors. We also have a lot more over on marygracemedia.com, a whole lot more that we can't fit into all of our commercials. So take a gander over there and support these America First companies. We will be right back. You have about 4 minutes. Set a timer. Bye. Listen, your health is your best investment. We have a country to save, and we need people who are in the best shape of their lives, physically, mentally, spiritually. Why not connect with a team who cares about you on every single level from the inside out? Official Synapse is that team. OfficialSynapse.com. It's official, SYNAPSE.com. Tell them Mary Grace sent you, and they will treat you like family. If you're like most people, you really probably haven't thought about transferring your paper dollars into physical gold and silver. But I want to tell you a story. My friend Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, he recently went overseas and he wanted to buy a watch. He likes fine watches. He took 3 currencies with him. He took gold, he took Bitcoin, and he took American dollars. Now, there used to be a time when the American dollar was king. I remember that when I used to travel overseas. Everybody wanted dollars. The people that he was dealing with would not take his dollars because the dollar is so devalued around the world. They wanted the gold. So this is what I recommend to you. I want you to think about this. If you have cash in the bank, if you have an investment account that you have worked hard for years to accumulate, consider the value of converting that money into physical gold and silver. You're not buying something that's losing value. You're changing those worthless dollars into a tangible physical asset that will go up in value, which it has done historically. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to bh-pm.com. The first thing you're going to do is schedule that free consultation. Second thing, just think rationally about this, pray about it, go to the Lord, see what the best decision for you and your family is. I can't tell you that. I don't want to pressure you into that. What I do know is don't be scared, be prepared. And so the third thing you want to do is make a decision for you and your family. Make a decision, take action. bh-pm.com. Let them know Mary Grace sent you. When it comes to food, we really want to be aware of what is in the food that we're consuming. And that includes different types of technologies, jibber jabbers, technology that can alter your genetic makeup. And this is why we want to focus on American grown beef that isn't injected with things that you wouldn't put into your own body. We really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We saw 4 years ago what happened when the whole country shut down and people couldn't even go to the grocery store. We saw what happened when meat and other foods were rationed, and that could happen any day. We want you to be prepared. We want you to take action. And one of the best ways to do that is to secure food for yourself and your family. What better way than to go to griddownchowdown.com, use promo code Mary Grace, get a sustainable, reliable, shelf-stable source of high-quality American beef. All you do is go to griddownchowdown.com, tell them Mary Grace sent you, put your order in the basket and check out, and you're good to go. The other thing you can do is you can get a subscription. If you do a subscription, you're going to get this freeze-dried beef delivered to your door every month. And you're going to save a little bit while you do that. You're going to stockpile it, or you can just cook with it. Some people are just using it for their regular cooking. It's really up to you, but it's super convenient because it's freeze-dried and it's shelf-stable for 12, 15 years or more. Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code Mary Grace. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who watches this show. Thank you for being a participant. Thank you for being a loyal audience member. I just want to remind you, if you like what you've seen, please share this and don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and also sign up for my email list so you never miss a show. We are back, and I wanted to give a shout out to the editors over on Rumble. They have us featured in the live stream right now on Rumble. So if you go over to Rumble and you click your the buttons at the top where it says live and you scroll down, we are there. We're in the featured list. So that's awesome. Yeah, and so we have just under 1,000 watching live. So let's bump up the comments. Let's get the interaction going on Rumble so we can get over 1,000 there. Also share this out. And I want to make sure that I give love to my Facebook family. My Facebook audience has been incredibly loyal for a very long time. So I don't want to neglect you guys. And then, of course, we're growing over on X. Fantastic. Lots of people watching there. And then we have YouTube. We have some issues because YouTube has some relationship issues with us, but we're still there. And so if you are a YouTube fan, I do want to encourage you to make the switch and to get signed up on these other platforms just in case. And make sure you're on my mailing list. Go to marygracemedia.com, get on that mailing list so that you can get the emails. I sent one out earlier today to let people know that we would be on the show. You can't really count on them. Like I said, they've got issues. And so we're gonna do the best we can with them, but we're not trying to squeeze blood from a stone here. So we're just going to keep going on the other platforms that are giving us the love and helping us to get the word out there. Now, we're back. I've got Dave Hayes here, also known as Praying Medic. And Dave has done an incredible job of digging into what happened with the Trump trial that we got the verdict on just the other day in New York. The first half of the show, he explained basically the basis on which Trump and his team can appeal this 34 count uh, guilty verdict. And now he's going to dive into the appeals process and just what that would look like for Trump and his team. So please, if you have anybody who is in a place of confusion or misunderstanding or who actually believes that Trump is a felon, go ahead and just copy the link and send it to them. Tag them if you're on Facebook, tag them if you're on X, and say, hey, here's the facts about this case and what is going on and what we are probably going to see. And then, of course, the big question is Trump going to be in jail? Is he going to actually be behind bars? And if he does, I want the t-shirt, but I really hope he doesn't go behind bars. Okay, go.
Yeah, well, that last issue is very important because there's a lot of people who are quite frightened and scared,
Yeah,
concerned that Trump is going to go to jail and he might be killed in jail. So
yeah.
we're going to address that concern as well. This next section should be called sentencing and appeal. So
Okay.
before the appeal, there has to be sentencing. Trump's case is not considered final until he's been sentenced. So he's scheduled to be sentenced by Juan Merchan on July 11th. And interestingly enough, there is a growing number of members of Congress and people in the Republican Party who want to move the Republican convention. Right now, the convention is scheduled, I think, 4 days after his sentencing. They want to move the convention to July 4th and make Trump the nominee on July 4th before he's sentenced. So we'll see how that goes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So the sentencing, he'll be sentenced on July 11th. The expectation for a normal average citizen in his situation with the charges that he's faced with, sentencing guideline would normally be 0 to 12 months, maybe 18 months at the outside of incarceration. And because he has no criminal history at all, no history of any kind of weird criminal behavior, he would probably not serve any time in jail. He would probably be given 6 months probation. For the average person who would be, Joe Blow, who would be convicted of this type of crime, it's a very low sentencing recommendation. And like I said, he would normally not serve any jail time, just go on probation.
Okay.
Yourself and everything's good.
Unless you're Trump.
As we know, Trump is not the average person.
Yeah.
And there are several things to consider in looking at the sentencing of Trump. We have seen obvious perversion of the sentencing guidelines with respect to the January 6th defendants. People who literally walked into the Capitol, did nothing, touched no one, hurt no one, broke nothing, and these people are doing 10 to 15 years in the gulag. There has been a massive perversion of the sentencing on anyone connected to January 6th or Trump. So we've got that to consider. The regime seems to be looking for ways to severely punish anyone connected to Trump and making examples of them. And it's a little bit of psychological warfare. It's actually a lot of psychological warfare.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do is by indicting the alternate electors in Arizona and other states, they're trying to create this fear in the Make America Great Again movement, the America First movement, that if you question elections, if you step out of line, we are going to make an example of you. We're going to prosecute you. We'll kill you with lawfare. We'll break your bank. We'll put you in debt. We'll smear your name in the press. They're intentionally doing this to stop people from standing up, making statements, and trying to fight back against the system. Peter Navarro is spending time right now in prison because he would not bend the knee to the congressional sham J6 committee and come in for a testimony. He had a legitimate, and so did Bannon. Both of them had legitimate reasons not to respond to the subpoenas because they, as members of the Trump administration, and Trump exerted executive privilege to not disclose information to that committee. They disobeyed a subpoena, and because of that, now Bannon is going to be going on trial this week. And they're probably going to do the same thing to Bannon that they did to Navarro. They'll probably throw him in the gulag as another way to convince us, shut up, sit down, do not push back against the regime, or we'll put you in prison. So with that as the backdrop,
They're doing it. They're trying again. They're coming after Flynn again too. He just I don't think this is privileged information. He was served with multiple subpoenas on Memorial Day. Like the one day that
yeah,
he's home with his family, the
of
process
course,
server shows up in his backyard when he's cooking steaks. And he's with his grandchildren, right? That's when they show up to give him subpoenas. And that's another reason, just speaking of the movie, when I said that there are licensing issues, he has to cross every T and dot every I. And so if you're going to show the Flynn movie outside of your home to a group, it's really important that you schedule a watch party because of that, because of taxes and all those crazy things they're trying to get him. So
yeah.
just want to
I,
throw that
I
in.
was listening to Caroline Wren this morning.
Yeah.
She's with Carrie Lake's campaign.
Okay.
She said that the day that the verdict came out, she and Kerry and Kelly Ward and a lot of Republicans in Arizona were served subpoenas in a defamation case here. They're doing this intentionally. They're sending these people out and they're serving subpoenas and they're waging this lawfare at specific times for a purpose. It is to threaten, intimidate, harass, and to try to discourage and demoralize our side of the community. And so, like I said, with all that as a backdrop, what is the expectation of sentencing? Well, I dropped a little video this morning on Telegram and X, which is from The View, where one of the cackling hens on The View said that she talked to somebody from Alvin Bragg's office. And this guy said that the sentencing recommendation is going to be 1 year in prison in Rikers Island for Trump.
How did they know this? How do they know?
She said that she was leaked information from the DA's office that Bragg is going to ask the judge for 1 year in prison and 5 years probation. That's now, this is psychological warfare. So there's lawfare, which they wage against people to try to bankrupt you and intimidate and harass and take up all your time and tie you up. And then there's psychological warfare, where they leak information to certain people to put that out into the public to then further intimidate and harass and frighten us. Like wait a minute, they're going to put Trump in prison for a year, really, on Rikers Island?
Mhm.
Like, it's totally psychological warfare. There may be nothing to this. It could be just rumors. It could be that the Biden administration um, sent this information out to the View to put it out there and to create a narrative to get people frightened. Because I'm
Yeah.
getting emails and messages from people who are legitimately frightened. They're afraid Trump is going to
Yeah.
end up in prison and he's going to end up being killed.
Well, they're also saying that because if he's a convicted felon, then he would no longer have Secret Service protection. So that's it's right. So that and that's
This whole thing is getting crazy now. I'm now seeing people in some states saying that, well, our state doesn't allow anyone to run for office if they're a felon, if they're a convicted felon. And other countries, some countries are saying, oh, well, you
Mhm.
can't visit our country because we don't allow convicted felons to come into our country, right?
Yeah.
This whole thing is blowing up into an attempt to handcuff Trump so he can't do this, can't do that, can't be on the ballot, can't go here. And it's insane.
Yeah, and
The level of psyops going on right now is
Mhm.
crazy.
I did want to address that because, we're talking about the appeal and we're talking about the process and everything. However, what we're seeing in our social media feeds is that the people with Trump derangement syndrome are gleefully proclaiming him a felon, a rapist. I mean, all the
Let
they're
him.
just so happy, and this is where we really have to guard our minds and our hearts.
Yep.
Those people who come in and do that, for the most part, I'm not responding to them. I'm just blocking them, muting them, whatever it is,
Yep.
because they want to distract you and they also want to get into your psyche and have you be in a place of anxiety and worry about Trump. Because,
Yep.
I mean, it hurts. It hurts to hear him called those names. It really does. We take it personally because, a lot of us care so much about him. And so, it's like, you insult him, you insult me and all of the people that I care about. And so that's exactly what they want is for you to take it personally and to internalize it and then even get to the point where you react violently, whether it's with words or physically violence. And so you have to resist. This is something they started doing in the 2016 election. It in the physical realm, it's called bird dogging, where they try to egg you on. They have plants. They plant people in a crowd to try to uh, ex, ex, to elicit a response. And
Agent
typically
provocateurs.
yes, provocateurs, they want to elicit a violent response. They want to get you arguing on social media. They want to get you mass reported and banned off of these platforms because of your words. And so literally just talk to the hand, talk to the hand, ignore them. That's what you need to do. Don't get into a back and forth with them. They know not some of them are just doing it out of ignorance, but some of them are specifically sent as provocateurs. Do not fall for that trap, okay? Just go take a walk, touch some grass, look at the sky, and don't let them get into your head.
Every time something like this happens, anytime there's a news event that looks like it could be spun as a very bad day for America First, you can be guaranteed on social media they're going to release the trolls.
Yeah.
And Little Soros literally went on Twitter and said, we need to continually repeat the idea that Trump is a convicted felon. We need to repeat it over and over again because the more we repeat it, the more it becomes true in the minds of our enemies. Little
Yeah.
Soros is literally telling the world this is psychological warfare and they need to try to demoralize us and
Mhm.
just beat this drum that Trump is a felon. Trump is a felon.
Yeah.
And so they'll come into the Telegram channels, they'll come in on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and they'll start trolling like crazy. And Soros is the one who's paying them, by the
Mhm.
way. to go out there and mess with your feelings. So, like Mary said, block them, mute them, do not engage with them, keep
Mhm.
on going, and just ignore these morons. Don't take the bait. Do not get into arguments. You're not going to convince them because they're on a mission. And, and
Yes.
and anyone who tells you that it's time for us to take action against the regime, come on, guys, we need to get our guns and get it. That person is probably a Fed trying to get you to do something stupid.
Yeah.
Just like don't take the bait. Just use
Also,
common sense and be
yeah.
cool. And
Also, we need to address the black pillars. So there are
yeah,
people, supposed conservatives. Some of them are Con Inc. Some of them are just big, big conservative accounts. We talked a little bit about this. They are often the ringleaders of sort of the doom porn of, we have to take action, we have to fight back. This is horrible. Trump is going to get killed in jail. Like, a lot of them are supposed conservative accounts that are ginning up fear and panic. So just be aware, and if you're a Christian, just stop for a second and ask, is this a message of peace? Do I have reassurance from listening to this message, or am I feeling a sense of panic rising up from hearing this? Because remember, it's the enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy, to steal your peace, to kill your peace, to kill your joy, to destroy that. Jesus is himself the Prince of Peace. So just ask yourself, where am I going when I read or listen to this? If it is the opposite of peace, then take it out of your feed, take it out of your consciousness, because, God's got this. I'm not saying sit back and do nothing. I'm saying understand how you might be emotionally manipulated through this and make a choice to walk away from that and not engage with that.
I
So,
have I have a kind of an important principle I want some people to think
sure.
about.
Yeah.
If you are the personality temperament, the kind of person who has strong negative reactions, emotional reactions to these kind of events, you should seriously consider taking yourself off of social media when these events happen. Take a couple of days off and just shut down social media, leave your phone in the bedroom, and don't get on social media and keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, going further and further into despair and hopelessness and whatever other emotion you're going through. There are some people who are just very sensitive to this kind of stuff. It affects them very deeply. And if you're one of those people, just consider taking a break from social media and just, getting away from it all. And that's not my temperament. I when this
Yeah.
kind of stuff happens, I engage because I can pretty well manage my emotions with stuff like this. So, can we talk about
Yes.
the sentencing likelihood? If this were any other person except Trump, he would be getting probation, and this would be a nothing burger. However, it's Trump, and we've seen that the regime seems to want to punish bad children who don't, do what they want them to do. Is Trump going to be sentenced to prison time? I don't know. It's really difficult to gauge because on the one hand, it seems like they're if you just kind of look at the data points and look at the pattern, it looks like they're using very heavy sentencing to punish anyone who is an outspoken supporter of America First. And so you would think that Trump would probably be looking at a pretty stiff sentence. However, there also, you can see some of the Democrats and the liberals and the establishment Republicans are looking at this going, this is not going the way we planned. Every, I'm sure they thought if they indicted Trump, it might give someone like Ron DeSantis the ability to knock him off the ticket and take him out of the race. Didn't happen. And everything they do to Trump, I think they're hoping it's going to weaken his support and maybe disqualify him. And it doesn't do that. It just gives him more support. I guarantee you, if they sentence him to a year in prison and 5 years probation, Trump is going to raise $150 million off of that.
Yeah.
And he's going to go up 5 more points in the polls. Do they want that to happen? That's kind of the whole thing is like, they got to know if they do this, it's only going to make Trump more of a sympathetic character to the people who are kind of marginally on the fence. And Trump is getting more and more of those people on the fence sitters into his camp the more they do this.
Yeah.
So what do? They're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Yeah.
I don't have a prediction as far as sentencing. However, there are some things that we know are going to happen. He's going to be sentenced, whether he's and what will happen is Merchan could try to put Trump in jail immediately and just get him behind bars. I think that would be a huge miscalculation if they tried to do that. But I'm not putting anything past these people because they really are kind of desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. So if Trump is sentenced to prison, there is this issue of appeal and a stay and the Secret Service. So Trump is going to immediately request, if he's sentenced to time in prison, he's going to immediately go to the state appellate court and file for a stay of the sentencing pending appeal. And any normal person who went through what Trump has gone through, who has such solid grounds for an appeal and is likely going to be reversed, the trial court judge is going to be reversed on appeal, the appellate court would say, yeah, we're going to issue a stay. Because what the courts don't want is and generally this is for someone who's sentenced to less than a year in prison. What the courts don't want is someone to go to prison and serve prison time on a charge that is likely going to be overturned, because that is perceived as unjust by the public, and the courts don't want to be perceived as unjust. So if the appellant looks like they have a very strong case on appeal, the appeals court will normally issue the stay, which means they don't have to serve the prison time right away until the appeal has been heard. So it's very likely, if Trump is sentenced to prison, he's going to immediately request a stay at the appellate court level. If the appeals court, if they have a brain cell, they should issue the stay and prevent Trump from going to prison. They should take the appeal and look at it, but they may not. We don't know. I think there's a strong chance they will. If they don't, if the appellate court, if the state appellate court decides not to issue the stay and not to take the appeal, then Trump can go up the chain to the highest court in New York State before he goes to. He would actually, I think he'd have to go to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and then it would go to Supreme Court. I think it's really unlikely this is going to end up at the Supreme Court. One of the lower courts, I'm sure, will issue a stay if he's sentenced to prison time, and probably take up the appeal.
And do you think
Trump would be out? He would not be incarcerated, and probably would. Right now, he's on his own reconnaissance. There isn't any bail or anything like that.
But I understand what you're saying about, not wanting them to be jailed for something that they shouldn't be jailed for, but we're still dealing with so much corruption. So if we can't trust Merchan to do the right thing, how can we trust the appeals court to do the right
can't.
thing?
The New York appeals court
no.
is not going to look favorably on Trump.
Okay.
He's not liked by the judiciary in New York. They just don't like him.
Okay, so then
I'm not saying that it's a slam dunk. They're going to issue a stay and take the appeal. I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
It may go to the Second Circuit Court.
Okay.
It may go that far. So on the issue of um, of Trump serving time in prison, that's not going to happen. And I'm not an attorney, I'm not a
Okay.
prosecutor, but the logistics that any prison would have to go through to incarcerate the presumptive presidential nominee for a major party and
Mhm.
likely the future president, you're talking about having the president of the United States in your prison.
Mhm.
And you would have to perhaps build a new prison just for him because the security that you would have to go through, you'd have to clear out an entire floor. You'd have to provide 24/7 monitoring, security to ensure his safety. Secret Service is going to be there. Secret Service is going to be with Trump the rest of his life. And wherever he goes, whatever he
Yeah.
does, he's never going to be away from the Secret Service. So, so the logistics of getting Trump in a prison cell is really, really difficult. Now, Trump may push to get himself in a cell just for the photo opportunity
I
because he can merchandise the hell out of that if he ends up in a prison cell.
I was gonna say, the other thing is, Trump would have Scott Presler in there, getting everybody registered to vote. Um, and he
Yes,
would
he
I
would.
I mean, and there would be I mean, he here's the thing that the people who don't take the time to understand the truth about Trump don't know what a well-liked guy he is, especially just around regular people.
He
And
would
I
be
mean,
he would be the most well-liked person on a cell block if he was in
yeah,
regular
he
detention,
yeah,
confinement. Everyone
every
would love him.
everybody would love him. I mean, he would have everybody defending him. I mean, everybody would have his back.
Yeah.
So, gosh, we've got an issue on Rumble right now. I've got to stop for a second. To my Rumble chat, thank you for your patience. Ever since we talked about psychological warfare and crazy leftists, is we have been just bombarded with nasty trolls in the chat on Rumble. So I'm doing the best I can. If you see me not looking straight at the camera while Dave is
It's because you're
talking,
blocking trolls.
it's
That's
because
fine.
I'm blocking trolls. So
That's
so
cool.
please, guys, be patient here.
Hey,
We're doing the best we can.
we're over the target.
That means that we are right where we need to be, and the people that are running these troll farms don't want they don't want the truth to get out, and so they've loosed the trolls.
Hey, Mary, why
Um,
don't you block trolls for a minute? And I'm going to give people a little discussion about the Secret Service and Trump being in prison.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
we know that um, the the logistics and the contingencies are being worked out in advance on the possibility that Trump is going to be sentenced to time in prison. First of all, I should say this: there is nothing in the Constitution that prevents a convicted felon from running for president and being elected to the office of president. Trump absolutely can run for president and be elected and serve as president as a convicted felon. He can serve from a jail cell if he wanted to, if he had to. The only constitutional provisions that for someone to be a president is they need to be a U.S. citizen, they need to be 35 years of age, and they need to have not participated on the side of the Confederate Army during the Civil War. Those are the only three qualifications to be president. It says nothing about being a convicted felon, so don't worry. The conviction does not prevent him from serving as president. It's not an issue.
Good.
The issue is um, more if the deep state goes full court press and if they try to get Trump incarcerated. There's this, now we get into this very deep 3D chess thing where does Trump actually want to be incarcerated? Does Trump want the publicity? And, the mugshot being booked was one thing. Photos and video of Trump in a prison cell is a completely another level of holy moly, where the hell is our country at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there, with respect to the Secret Service, you have to just realize the Secret Service is their charter is they have to uh, guarantee, they have to make sure their the president, the former presidents that they oversee, are kept safe and are not going to be injured or hurt. That's what they do. If I would not be surprised at all if the Secret Service is already working out a way that if Trump is going to be ordered to be detained, that it would be home detention at Mar-a-Lago under the watchful eye of the Secret Service. And if I was running the Secret Service off, that's what I would do. I would say, look, you're gonna put my man behind bars. We're gonna do home detention. We'll put a little ankle bracelet on him if you want us to, but I don't think the Secret Service could allow him to go into a regular detention facility. It's just there's just too many issues. They couldn't even keep Epstein alive. The video camera broke down the night that Epstein supposedly killed himself.
It broke down. Yeah.
Right. Like, how many people have been killed in New York state penitentiaries? I can't even count. I don't think there's any way Secret Service is going to let Trump go anywhere near a detention facility in New York. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's funny because oh, hold on a second. Goodness, they're just crazy over there. All right. So, in the name of Jesus, all you trolls, get out of here. Just get out. There's absolute bot activity happening right now. I'm going to send this to support at Rumble. This is crazy.
Okay.
Wow.
So the way forward is Trump is going to be sentenced on July 11th. We don't know what the sentence is going to be. If Merchan is ballsy enough to sentence Trump to incarceration, there's going to be a rumble between Secret Service and the New York Bureau of Prisons about what that's going to look like. There will be an appeal. There will be a motion for a stay of the sentencing. There's just a lot of legal process that has to go through. Like I said, it'll first just start working its way up the chain until somebody with some functioning brain cells issues a stay on the sentence and takes up the appeal. Like I said, I think Trump has a very good case for appeal. And then there's this issue of the election. What happens come November? Will we have an election?
Yeah, that's the other thing. General Flynn keeps saying. General Flynn says, like, every time I'm because I'm on these group calls with him, and he says it every time. He's like, so if we have an election,
I'm with him.
Yeah, and every he's doing it on live streams too, so it's no secret that he's saying it, but he brings it up every time, and that's where, to me, it's like things get serious, right? Because it's like, okay, this is the guy who was the head of the national security apparatus. And like above all of them. So yes. I don't really take him to be a drama queen. I don't know. I mean,
no,
right?
He's not.
Yeah.
If he's concerned, there's reason to be concerned.
Yeah.
And if he's saying it publicly, there's even more reason to be concerned, because spooks like Flynn know how to keep their mouths shut about things they're not supposed to talk about. And, he doesn't shoot off his mouth carelessly. If he's talking about that, he has a serious concern about the possibility of a black swan event that would preclude the election, I would take him seriously. And I've been on board 100% the whole way, because I'm very concerned. Look, and it's obvious. The deep state they're in an existential fight for their life. Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, said this morning in an interview with Bannon, and by the way, Ken Paxton probably has the inside track to be the next Attorney General of this country. If Trump is elected, I think Ken Paxton is in the lead for possibly being our next AG.
That would be awesome.
Paxton said in an interview with Bannon this morning, If he was attorney general, he would burn the FBI to the ground and start over again and may not even need federal law enforcement. He said the FBI is too corrupt to be salvaged. It needs to be done away with, and we need to start over.
I saw that. I saw
So
that.
they are signaling to the deep state, we are coming after you. If you let us get back into the White House, we are going to destroy you. This is a zero-sum game. And the deep state knows that. They know if Trump gets in and he puts in Ken Paxton as AG, and if he puts in Flynn as FBI director or
Mhm.
CIA director or any other high spot, which he probably will, it's over for them. They're all going to end up in prison. They're all going to end up jobless. It's over. So I expect the deep state to pull out all the stops between now and November. And I think one of the things that they're already planning, they've been planning for a while, is how do we prevent the election from happening? And there's a number of
Yeah.
ways they can do it. And they could simply just taking down the internet throughout the country. You wouldn't have an election. They would just declare a national emergency and they could postpone the election. Power outage. They could attack the power
Yeah.
grid down. Cyber attack on whatever infrastructure. There's many ways they could signal the sleeper cells that are here in the country to start pulling off terrorist attacks, declare a national emergency. We're not going to have an election. We could go to war
Yeah.
with China or Russia. National emergency. We're not going to have an election. There's a lot of different ways that they could do it, and I'm as concerned as Flynn that we may not have an election in November.
And I think this is a good time to explain when you talk about like a national emergency, a terror attack, things like this. This is a good time to explain what a false flag is because this is a good example where an incident is either planned and instigated. It's a real incident, but can you explain it? Because people
Yep.
think that a false flag means that something is staged like a movie set and
Yep.
that it's all
So,
actors, but that's not what it is.
yeah, when we talk about these things, there's a couple of different terms that we use. One of which is a hoax, and a hoax is something that is reported to be a crime that was actually never really what it was purported to be, like Jesse Smollett. Jesse Smollett and his claim that he went to this neighborhood and he got attacked by a bunch of white guys and they threatened to hang him and all this other stuff. That was a hoax because the things that Jesse Smollett happened never happened. Okay, that's a hoax. A hoax is an event that is
Mhm.
claimed to have happened for a certain purpose that never actually happened. That's a hoax. A false flag is an actual event that happens that is perceived to have been caused by one party when it was actually caused by another party, right? So, um, which if I'm going to make up a fictitious event because I don't want to trigger people. So um, let's say that the CIA gets together. Oh, you know what? I'll use a real one. The kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer plot, right? The Fed napping. What the FBI did was they took a dozen FBI agents and they recruited a bunch of people in Michigan in a plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. The FBI designed the plan, they put it into operation, they recruited the people, they funded everything, they ran the operation from start to finish, and just got a couple of yokels who didn't know any better to agree to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. All right. Now, what turned out was when these guys went to court and were charged, they were exonerated and found innocent because the entire thing was exposed to be as an FBI plot from the beginning. It was an entrapment, right? That's an example of a false flag. An actual plan is developing, but it's not being planned by the people that they tell us were the ones who planned it. So, How are we doing on the trolls?
Oh, it's awful. There's obviously a bot.
All right.
It's bot activity. So as soon as I click one out, another one comes in, but they're repeating the same messages over and over. I just
Okay.
wrote to
Okay.
support.
Well, I don't want to blow up the live stream with too much attention on the bots because I prefer to ignore trolls.
Yeah.
So as we move toward the November election,
Yep.
it's
Keep talking.
possible we may see things like false flags happening, where the intelligence agencies start to activate what are called sleeper cells. What is a sleeper cell? A sleeper cell is a group of people that mingle into society. They kind of they blend into society and appear to be normal, everyday, average people, but they're not. They're actually people who have sent in to a community as agents of chaos and destruction. And when they're given a signal to activate, they then start creating terrorist events, bombings, murders, attacks, civil unrest, rioting. They go become active and start all of these activities when they're given a signal. And a good example of this is the pro Hamas demonstrations that happened a couple of months ago. Those people, whether you know it or not, are sleeper cells. They were given a signal and they all at the same time went active on all these campuses around the country to foment rioting, civil unrest, and protest to achieve a certain purpose. And the purpose was not what we were told it was. They claim that they were protesting in support of the Palestinians who are victims of a genocide, when in fact they were actually trying to pull off a color revolution
Mhm.
here in this country to overthrow the government. And we're going to see more of that in the future. It happened in 2020 when Trump was in the White House. During May and June and July of 2020, the summer of mostly peaceful protests, where the protesters literally threatened to remove Trump physically from the White House. Those people are sleeper cells.
They were climbing the White House fence.
they, were, they got over the White House fence and they came onto the lawn and they were about to get shot if they went any further.
Yeah.
We're going to see more of that stuff in the future
Yeah.
as this whole thing spins further down the rabbit hole. But just be aware of things like false flags, sleeper cells, color
Yeah.
revolutions. These are all things that you're going to be seeing happening,
Mhm.
and don't be bewildered and don't be fooled at who's behind them.
Yeah.
George Soros is behind most of it.
I thought it was really good how the campus demonstrations, the pro, terrorist demonstrations were completely shut down when the college students started mocking and ridiculing them. That was so perfect. It was like,
Frat boys for the win.
"Oh, we didn't get the traction we wanted." Have you guys noticed they're not happening? They're like they're done. They
For
packed up
now,
and went home. Yeah.
for now, they'll be
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. But I thought that was really it was
Yeah,
very
my
telling.
concern is that if they have the election and if Trump is elected in November, those sleeper cells are going to be activated again, and it's going to be their job to create rioting and chaos and pandemonium between the election and the inauguration and try to prevent the inauguration. And then if Trump is inaugurated, there'll become more of them. They'll multiply. Soros will fund more of them and just try to make it
Yeah.
impossible for Trump to govern if he gets into the White House.
Yeah.
We have not seen the end of this stuff.
It's crazy. But, I think as hard as it is to deal with, I mean, I know you don't wanna focus on the trolls, but this is actually a good, um, example of what we're dealing with. Because the fact that we're experiencing this level of interference means that the stakes are really high, and they don't want this information to get out. They don't want people to be able to pay attention in the chat. They don't want us to be able to have an effective conversation about what's true and what's important. And so this is it's a type of censorship. It's a type of interference in trying to prevent the conversation from happening. And so it's to me, it's an encouraging sign in the same way that they wouldn't be sending out these agitators and provocateurs um, if there weren't anything at stake.
Right.
They would leave us alone. They would have left us alone,
Right.
right?
Well,
So
that's how you know you're over the target, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep, yep. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because the people that are in the Rumble chat, they get it. It's like we are over the target, and I'm slowing down the chat again here so to see if we can deal with this. But yeah, it's a state of panic. I mean, these people, they're taking to social media, they have coordinated messaging, everything they're saying, these trolls is exactly the same. And so to me, it's kind of a win, right? We've never had this happen in our Rumble chat. I haven't actually needed a moderator until now. But it's all meant to distract. And so just stay the course and don't let it happen. Don't let it get you distracted. This is it's so it's like it's kind of a win, right? It's a win.
It is. It is. Well, it's part of the game of psychological warfare is,
Yeah.
um, and this is something I practice a lot. Full confession. I practice this every single day. I try as much as possible every day not to let people who hate me, people who oppose me, people who are trolls, to not let those people live in my head rent free. My job is to
Yeah.
live in their heads rent free. So when they do their live streams and their tweets and their Facebook posts and their Telegram, trolling stuff, I do everything I can to absolutely ignore them. You
Yeah.
will never see me responding to haters and trolls on social media. Block them, I ignore them. It drives them crazy. The more I ignore them, the more it drives them crazy. The
Yeah.
more they go on their live streams and podcasts and talk, crap about me. The more I know I'm being successful because I'm getting my message out to my audience without responding to them. They are talking about me in hateful language to their audience because I'm living rent free in their head.
Yeah.
So there is in the psychological warfare, what you want to do is you want to live rent free in the heads of your enemies. And you want to just block those morons out and don't even think about them. Just let them rant and
Yeah.
scream and rage and do all this stuff and just ignore them. Just block them, bless
Yep.
them, and block them. And let them do their thing and get on with doing what is your thing, which is, putting
Yeah.
out positive, hopeful messages, talking about the kingdom of God, talking about, America first,
Exactly.
whatever your issue is. Don't let the trolls get you off track, off message. Don't let them live in your head.
Yeah.
Your job is to do your thing and live rent free in their heads.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I think, one of the things too, I think that that is really good on X is you can mute people. So you don't even give them the satisfaction of a block. So they keep
Yeah, just
talking
mute
and
them.
they think that they're talking to you, right? But they're not actually talking to you. They're just talking to the air.
Right.
And if you're
It's
following an
it's like
account.
the dog barking at other cars
Yeah,
going by on the
yeah,
road. Like, okay, you're
yeah,
barking a lot, but no one gives a damn what
yeah.
you're
And if you're
barking.
following, I just had a troll that got blocked from my Rumble chat that came up on X, and I was like, I'm gonna block you either way, But that's just how desperate they are. I mean, I'm telling you guys, it's frustrating, and I really wanna give a shout out to my Rumble audience because it's been really hard to deal with this because they're so nasty. It reminds me of the nasty trolls we used to get on Periscope. But the point is that you're still listening, and if you did get distracted, go back and listen to what Dave had to say here, because the information is so important. And so I think that it is really important, and I think that it's a sign that we're moving in the right direction. So, Dave, can you give us just a recap of the appeals process? Because we got a little off track there, but let's
Yep.
just make sure that people understand, like, what's gonna happen. We did go over that. So for Teresa on Rumble, who's trying to tell me how to run my channel, um, y y maybe start your own live stream and see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, let's just
So
do
recap on the appeals process,
yeah,
sentencing and appeal.
yeah.
Now that the jury has rendered their verdict, uh, Trump will be sentenced July 11th. When the sentence has been issued, Trump's attorneys then will take their next step. This is just chess. Okay, it's really more like checkers, because in checkers you don't have all the complex moves. This really is going to become a lot more like checkers now. So your turn to move, then it's my turn to move, then it's your turn to move, and it's my turn to move. Um, Once a sentence has been issued by Judge Merchan, Trump's attorneys will then likely, if the sentence is for incarceration, time in prison, they'll file for a stay to suspend temporarily Trump's prison time pending the outcome of an appeal. They will file for an appeal. They'll have to work their way up through the New York State appeals process, and then and like I said, hopefully one of the courts um, will issue, if he's sentenced to time in prison. Hopefully, one of the courts will issue a stay of the prison time pending the appeal. They'll take the appeal. They'll hear the appeal process. Very likely that this decision is going to be overturned on appeal. In fact, our friend Shipwrecked Crew actually put out a tweet where he thinks that Merchan is actually going to uh, invalidate his own decision, his own ruling, at a later date to prevent himself from being overturned by the appellate court. Because being overturned on an appellate court on a case this big is kind of an ignominious event. And I don't know, if I were an acting judge like Juan Merchan, who is actually a family court, I think I think he has like 3 years of practice.
He's a family court guy?
He is, what do they call those guys? The magistrate in family court, and he's not even
Oh
in
my
the
god.
regular New York state court judges. It's really weird how he ended up getting selected for two of Trump's cases and Bannon's case when he's not in the regular rotation of
Weird.
judges that would be assigned.
Weird, huh? That's weird.
Kind of weird. There's like 24
Yeah.
judges and they do like a random selection. He's not even in the rotation, and he ended up with two Trump cases, and he's going to be presiding over Bannon's case. Anyway, so yeah, there's plenty of road to go on this. Trump will appeal. This is far from the end. This is just sort of, we're in the middle of the game,
Okay.
and there's no reason to be freaked out. There is a lot of reason to pray. If you are not praying for President Trump, holy moly, let's start
Yeah.
petitioning and interceding for President Trump and his family. Cover those people in prayer every single day. God can work and do amazing things if we're willing to cooperate with him and pray. And that would be not my final word, but my biggest exhortation.
Yeah.
Get on social media, talk to your friends and family, talk them off the ledge if they think that the country is gone. Um, we have dark days ahead. Not gonna blow sunshine up your kilt. We got some dark days ahead, but I'm
Yeah.
optimistic about the long term prognosis. If we can make it to the election, even if they try to steal the election, they're going to have to manufacture a lot more votes this time than they did last time. And a lot of states have instituted some changes to the election system that's going to make it harder to cheat. So,
Yeah.
we need to not lose hope. Don't get into despair. Keep in prayer. Ask God for wisdom as to what your role is in this whole process. And just don't get down but with the headlines. This is psychological warfare at its finest. And if you focus on what God is doing, focus on the good things, throw out some memes periodically and troll some of the morons who are out there laughing about Orange Man Bad going to prison. I have a lot of fun. So, like, some people just don't understand that there's literally people on social media at this point in the game. They don't know that I'm an Anon, and I like to throw out memes and do Anon stuff. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of humor in your day and go about what you're doing. It'll lift your spirits. Don't
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
take everything so seriously, like everything is a life and death situation. Everything is not a life and death situation. And some of the stuff that these people are doing is just really stupid, and they need to be memed and mocked because of their
Yes.
their foolishness.
Yes, and I think this is a good time to remind people to a couple things that, the Bible says that God laughs at his enemies, and so it's okay to
And we're
laugh.
created in His
It
image, so we
Yeah,
should laugh at our enemies too.
and it's more than okay to laugh and to have humor. And the other thing too I wanted to say is just to remind people about, like, the 48-hour rule. When things happen, especially when it's so emotional. Hold on, it's like whack-a-mole over here, hold on. Um, so, when it's such an emotional situation, it's really important. I mean, I was feeling so down when I heard this verdict come back, but that is when it's so important that we take a step back and put the phone down, just like I said, get outside, take a walk, go if you have a baby, go play with the baby, right? Just focus on what's important
Go to the
because
shooting range
yeah, go to the shoot things
and learn
that
how to
are
shoot a gun.
yeah, shoot your gun at the shooting range, right? Just get that out in a different way and give yourself time to take a breather because they wanna take you out emotionally. And so just remember that. It's just remind yourself this is psychological warfare. They want me focused on anything but winning and anything but God's uh solution to this, right? It's not this isn't new. This isn't a new tactic by the enemy. It's not at all. So, um the good thing about the trolls is that they're basically bots, and so they're just saying the same thing over and over again.
All right.
Okay, so, Dave, where can people follow you?
You can follow me in a number of places. I'm very active on Telegram.
Yes.
My Telegram channel, it's praying_medic. It's the one that has like 150,000 followers. There's a main channel, there's a chat channel. My website's prayingmedic.com and prayingmedic.org. Prayingmedic.org is our ministry website. We receive donations on our Give, Send, Go page because we've been deplatformed by everybody except Give, Send, Go. It's givesendgo.com/PM. We receive donations there for our nonprofit ministry. They're tax deductible. And if you have supported us or considering it, we greatly appreciate that. I'm on Twitter at Praying Medic. I'm on True Social. I do have a Facebook
Mhm.
page. It's not the one that's posting a bunch of deep state stuff. I'm pretty much just posting testimonies of healing and instruction on the supernatural on my Facebook page. And
That's Dave's Telegram. I just
that's
got
my Telegram
another win red text.
scan the QR code, and I do live streams once a month, second Saturday of the month at 1 p.m. Eastern. We do Supernatural Saturday, where I've been taking a lot of just questions from people on the live stream, and I'm having a really good time with it.
Is that the second Saturday?
Second Saturday of every month at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Eastern. I record and do the live stream on my Telegram channel, and then I upload the recorded video to Rumble and some other platforms.
Awesome. Let's see. Let me just check the chat here for the legitimate. Okay, Therese and I have come to an understanding. Thank you, Therese. That's awesome. I appreciate your comment. Okay, so guys, this has been really good. We've definitely been going on for quite some time here. There is there's so much that we could talk about, but we definitely hopefully this is helping you to get perspective on what happened to Trump this week or for the past several months in New York, just the ins and outs of the way that this trial went down, how it happened, and what happened with the conviction, what the counts were for, and then also what is the sentencing and appeals process. And we kind of went in that order. So if you're coming in at the end of the show, you can go back and get the rundown in the first half of the show, and then understand the sentencing and appeals process in the second half of the show. And as you're leaving today, please remember as you come back, please comment. Please also hit the thumbs up, especially on the Rumble channel. Just go right under the video, hit the thumbs up. Do that on YouTube as well. Hit the hearts, the subscribe, the like, the follow. All of those things help these videos to show up in the algorithm when other people log on to these platforms. And then remember, please, to go to marygracemedia.com. Follow me there, and then go to my shopping tab and support our America First companies. Somebody bought a whole bunch of stuff from My Pillow recently using promo code Mary Grace, and I wanted to thank you for that. Their stuff is just amazing. If you are shopping for graduations, weddings, that's a big thing right now this time of year. Just go straight to My Pillow, mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. That is where you can buy all of that stuff. If you've got kids going to college, get all of the sheets and towels. It's really affordable. If you get like the budget towels, you don't have to worry what happens to them when they end up in your kids' dorm room. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they're not doing laundry. So don't spend a lot on towels. Get the ones that you can get from My Pillow with the promo code. It's true, right? Just get the best, cheapest sheets you can off of My Pillow, and they're not cheap, but they're cheap for you because you're going to use the promo code. Because that stuff's not coming home. I'm just telling you, it's not. But just get it all right there. Don't go to the big box store. Get it all taken care of. Get it shipped, and you don't even have to go fight all the crowds when you take your kid to college. Just get it all from My Pillow. Get that out of the way. Okay. Am I right? I mean, they're not bringing that stuff home.
If you
And
say so.
get the mattress topper because you don't want them sleeping on that dorm mattress. I will say that. Get the mattress topper. Okay. So, anything else, Dave? Are we good here?
No, I think that'll be a wrap, probably.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, we I think we're done. I think we're done with the trolls. Oh, wait, we're not. Hold on. Okay, everybody have a great day. Keep my channel bookmarked and make sure you're on the mailing list. Come back soon and we will have more great content for you. Dave and I will be back together. The band will be back together in just a few weeks and we're going to bring you another great show. So, that's it. Everybody have a great evening. And like I said, get outside, touch some grass, look at the sky, go to the shooting range, use up some ammo, do what you need to do. Get into the Bible, pray, and just listen to God. Have a great evening. Thank you again, everybody, for all of your support here and for being here today. Thanks again, Dave Hayes, Praying Medic. Great, great show. Appreciate all of your time and input. Oh, also, Dave is going to be on the X Spaces tomorrow with phenomenology at 4 p.m. Eastern, right?
Yep.
That's it. Okay.